The complete history of Hunter Stings. The most commonly known sting is the Hunter's Serpent Sting, which is basically just an ordinary dot like Corruption or Shadow Word Pain. But before Cataclysm, hunters actually had 3 stings to choose from to put on a target, plus one that is a CC. The stings I will be talking about are Serpent Sting, Viper, Scorpid, Wyvern, and Widow Venom. Widow Venom isn't technically a sting, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Serpent Sting is a nature-based dot. In vanilla, it scaled with spell power and was not changed to scale with attack power until BC. Serpent Sting was rarely used in both vanilla and BC because it's terrible damage in vanilla and the 8 debuff limit, and it didn't fit into the 1 macro BM rotation of BC. Serpent Sting finally saw some raid use in Wrath. You see, survival hunters had a talent that increased all damage done if Serpent Sting was up. Marksman hunters could refresh Serpent Sting through Chimera Shot. Chimera Shot would do 40% of Serpent Sting's total damage and refresh the sting to full duration. Back in Wrath, the dot's damage would not rescale during a Chimera Shot refresh, so it was possible to have a high-ticking dot on the boss by reapplying Serpent Sting manually while all your attack power buffs were up. In Cataclysm, survival hunters were given a talent that allowed every target of your multi-shot to be afflicted with a short-duration Serpent Sting, coupled together with another talent that let Serpent Sting do 30% of its total damage up front on application. Survival hunters, along with Frost DKs and Demolocks, were insanely overpowered on ad fights. Today, Serpent Sting is still applied through multi-shot, but it only does 15% of its total damage up front. Blizzard also buffed its damage to a point where it actually does good damage as a standalone dot, and can be used for multi-dotting boss fights for all 3 specs. Viper Sting was a poison mana drain. Although Viper Sting never did damage, whenever it drained mana it would break CC just like a normal dot. Before Wrath, Viper Sting drained a specific amount of mana and did not have a cooldown. So, a popular trick for hunters was to spam a level 1 Viper Sting on a druid, paladin, or shaman over and over, trying to trick them into wasting mana by cleansing it off over and over. In Wrath, Viper Sting was given a 15-second cooldown and only lasted 8 seconds. It drained mana equal to 4% of the hunter's mana and up to a maximum of 8%, which could be increased a little more through talents. Viper Sting was very popular in drain teams. Most fights were based around CCing the DPS and masking Viper Sting with Snake Trap and the Scorpion Pet poison. Both Snake Trap and the Scorpion Pet had a dot that would stack 5 times, so it was almost impossible to dispel Viper Sting. Viper Sting only gave mana in Wrath. Before, it just drained it. The Chimera Shot special for Viper Sting was to refresh its duration and give you 60% of the mana it would drain immediately. Viper Sting was removed in Cataclysm, and eventually all mana drains were removed from the game by late Cata. Scorpid Sting was a poison debuff that did not cause any damage. During its first implication in vanilla, it would reduce the target's strength and agility by a fixed amount, and was later changed to reduce the target's melee and hit rating by 5%, and again later changed to 3% in Wrath. This hit reduction did not affect spell hit. Scorpid Sting was really only good for PvP and only for 2 things. Since hunters could only have 1 sting up at a time, what they could do was take off their own Serpent Sting or Wyvern Sting dot so they could immediately follow up with the CC. Also, the Chimera Shot effect with Scorpid was a disarm. The disarm, however, would not get rid of range weapons and had an internal 1-minute cooldown. Scorpid Sting was also removed in Cata. Wyvern Sting was added mid-vanilla to replace Survival's terrible last-tier talent. Survival was originally supposed to be the Hunter melee tree, and the last talent was a terrible rend effect that did not scale. Wyvern Sting put targets to sleep for 12 seconds, then did a dot for 12 seconds. Wyvern Sting lasted 12 seconds in PvP until patch 2.3, where it was changed to 10 seconds like all other CCs. In Wrath, the duration was increased to 30 seconds, and the PvP duration lowered to 6 seconds, and was put on the same DR as Freezing Trap. For a short while, when Cobra Shot was first introduced, the Wyvern Sting dot was able to be increased through Cobra Shot's effect. The dot component was eventually removed in Mist, and Wyvern Sting had its cooldown lowered to 45 seconds. Widow Venom was added in Cataclysm, a poison debuff that decreases healing by 10% and did no damage. It was then buffed later to 25%, then lowered to 10%, then buffed back to 25% where it is today. Aside from the Rock Delar quest chain, that's the complete history of Hunter Stings.